Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Leaders of Impact. Now, in this episode, we are talking about leading under pressure. And yes, I am in a different location. This is Heron's Edge Retreat. This is going to be open up for bookings in about the next week or so. It's on the Sunshine Coast. I'm also joined by Bruce just for a moment here, our therapy dog. So to talk to you about leading under pressure, we first have to look at where you are at, because quite often we think that we have got everything under control. But how does it make you feel when I say that 95% of us think we are highly self-aware, but actually only 10 to 15% actually are? When you look at those figures, what that directly translates as, in my opinion, is a lot of us think that we're fine and we're handling things, but maybe not quite so much in reality. So how this then plays out is if you're not feeling perhaps as in control as you think of your emotions, because when we've spoken about control previously, I do want to highlight that we are never in control of anything but ourselves. We can influence, absolutely, but we are not in control. So think about this. If you are quite determined that you are in control of your emotions and you feel like you've got all your stress regulated, you're doing all the things, but then if pressure escalates, if there's a really stressful situation, if you then notice your patience levels drop, your tone becoming more clipped, your body tensing and your jaw clenching and your shoulders, you can feel it, all the tension coming up in your body. At that point, that is when you need to start paying attention to where you are at and how you are responding to things, because you may not be as calm as you think. So a lot of people, I do hear them say that they react really well to stress, that it gives them the edge, it increases their performance, and that is absolutely true to a point. It does give an edge, it does really sharpen the skills. However, once you get to a certain point, there is a tipping point where it can then come down when overwhelm overtakes that edge. We all have that as different levels, but the key is to not ignore the signs that come up, because your people and your work and your health all depend on it. So if you're burying your head in the sand and not paying attention to any red flags for stress levels, this is really important to take note of. So for yourself, if you were to literally look back at the last month and any stressful situations, whether it be at home or in the workplace, because they are all connected. Because if you're stressed at home, but you're fine at work, it's still connected in how your levels are within yourself. And I guarantee you, even if you're fine for a little while, the cracks will show as the pressure increases. So my first tip for you is to check in with yourself. How are you looking after yourself? Are you getting in those normal things like movement, like creating space for yourself? Are you feeling quite regulated and content within you? Are you quite balanced when challenges or issues come up, or when you come into perhaps a dispute or a difficult conversation with someone? How are you responding right now? What are your patience levels like? What about even if you go out for a drive? If something goes wrong, if someone cuts you off, do you react quite fast? If deadlines aren't kept to and you have to keep repeating yourself, what are your response levels like? What happens is, for us as people, we have something called a window of tolerance. And within this, if you think about, if right here, in the middle, that's your window where you can kind of go up and down. We fluctuate with moods and with stress levels. We are human beings. But if you go into hyper arousal up here, this is when your stress levels are peaking. At this point, you are likely to be snapping at people. You may be going into micromanaging, trying to over control, trying to take back anything that you see you can possibly get back into line. But that's not leadership. That is telling other people that they are not competent. When you're in the window of tolerance, what happens is you can actually look at it from a very balanced perspective and almost zoom out to then look at what's going on, what each person, their part is to play, what their needs are, how they respond to stress and pressure, because remember, you're the one that sets the tone, and every single one of your actions, you are constantly modeling how to respond and what the standard of behavior is that's allowed within your team. So if you're demonstrating snapping, being impatient, you are actually modeling that that's okay for that behavior to be amongst the team culture. So Window of tolerance, this is where it's okay to be in and fluctuate because you're still within a balanced mode within yourself. Up the top here, this is when you go into hyper arousal. And this is when you go into perhaps frustration, anger, impatience. Now below, you've got hypo arousal. This is when you may literally put your head in the sand and find things too hard. You may want to close the door to the office, shut down, and not take calls and literally hide away. So can you see all of us have the possibility to go into all of these modes? We're human. And you know what? If you do, that's okay. But the key is the awareness of it to then work through it, get past it, move forward, and also show your team how to do the same. So I said before, review in the last month how you've been responding to things. What's your workload like at the moment? How are you responding in conversations? How aware are you of deadlines? And also your delegation. This is really key. Are you just trying to take on everything yourself? Or are you really working in line and well with lifting your people up and giving them the skills and the tools so they have the confidence to work through when things are hard, to perhaps come to you with problems, but also a potential solution already in mind to then work through if it's possible? So we've gone through stress levels, we've gone through window of tolerance. Now, the other thing that I want to talk to you about is what are your perceptions of the people around you? Because if you have a belief that some people aren't capable, what will happen is when pressure increases, you will project that onto them. And then they may put their head in the sand, retreat, may miss detail, which is absolutely crucial. Their communication may drop as well. So it has a ripple effect. And everything comes from you if you are the one in the leadership position. So where you've got pressure coming up, how do you perceive pressure? Do you perceive it as, okay, this is something that's going to be hard, but we can get through? And it's okay because let's face it, business, companies, life, there is always going to be challenges. There's always going to be fluctuations. It's never going to be smooth sailing. So getting very comfortable with that and being able to weather that, building the grit, building the resilience around it is crucial, but also the grace, the self-care, and encouraging the people around you to do the same, because the better you are within yourself, the more grounded, the more composed, the more you can handle difficult situations. So take a good look, write down things, because just get a pen and a pad and actually write down. You might sit down and think, well, where do I start? Just start anywhere, somewhere. The rest will come. When you're putting it on your phone or typing it, it's not the same. When you're writing, it literally fires up all those beautiful neurons in your brain. It lights it up. And this is where the creativity, the thought, the exploration, and the critical thinking around yourself, the whole picture, the whole surroundings, the organization, where different targets meet, where different objectives, different values all align, but it starts with looking at reality, taking that on board and looking at realistically, if you're in a really hard situation, start to just write down and plot what's in your control, what's not, and then start to really get clear on how to proceed in each area that you are in control of. Because remember, control is an illusion. You can't control other people. You can't control business. You can't control other people's thoughts. You can't control anything around you. You can influence how you respond and react, but you cannot control. And sometimes when we try and hold too tightly onto things, that's when the challenges happen. So I hope this episode has been of use. And thank you, coming to you from Heron's Edge Retreat. More information will follow on this as well. So if you do search social media, Heron's Edge Retreat on the Sunshine Coast. Talk to you next time.